Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I make for Alan Sun as part of the custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, no, we are not going to be reviewing the entire show. I think this is a live show as part of this custom monthly music review, but we are going to be reviewing a 9-month track. And just in case anyone's keeping tabs, usually the minute limit for these Patreon reviews is 7. This is going to be for this month and next for Alan, so we're all good on that front. But yeah, usually the time limit is 7 minutes. But anyways, we're going to listen through this track from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. This is Toe with their track Goodbye. And there are lyrics at the end for us to check out, kindly provided by Alan, so let's go.
There ain't no one
Apparently this is quite a big song of theirs, judging by the reaction. Incredible proficiency of the percussion. I think I've spoken about Toe before, but the drummers were amazing. Absolutely feeling it. Incredible intricacy to the guitars, the layering and excellent dynamic range to it as well. Excellent development of the motif, bit of extra low in intensity there, which is quite nice. And the crowd is singing along there, they know the words. That's awesome, dude. Again, and just a comment on how wonderful the technical proficiency is of the percussion, but also how we're allowing it to build in a space where there is no vocals. I've probably talked about this before, but you want to have a main focal point in the composition, and they have that here. They absolutely do. They're letting the singer be the main sort of like center of attention with a lot of activity in the backing, don't get me wrong, in regards to the harmonies and melodies, etc. But this is just nice to have a bit of space before the next part. Great signaling, you know? It's so intimate with the venue with all the crowd surrounding them like that. Several different solo sections at once. It really is the big finish, isn't it? And the control to go that quiet. Have we got keys in there as well? Oh, those natural harmonics. Oh, there are totally are keys. I was wondering where the little sparkles in the mid to high range were, but there's definitely the right hand there. Simple vocal motif to kind of rip off vocal line. Wait, what are we doing now? Oh, we're doing effects. That was clever. It's very rare that I've seen musicians play that way with like reverb and delay pedals to kind of warp things and get the oscillations to feedback like that, but I think that was sensational. Genuinely, it was really cool. I think there should be more bands who utilize longer form tracks like this to make to have fun with aural sonospheres and everything like that, and to really kind of play with the listener's expectations. So I suppose the story has been told at this point. This jamming, and I know I'm describing what's happening, which is particularly transformative, but is that a Strandberg? They're headless bass. They're really cool guitars, and they're so lightweight as well. It's so chaotic, so full. Oh, excellent form of a breakdown there. Explosion of energy. That was stunning. Oh man. So classy. They have the crowd in the palm of their hands. That is musicianship right there. And they do high fives with everyone and just get to enjoy themselves like that. That's a successful concert, right? Oh, that was that. It was done. If you ever needed an example of why it can be detrimental to have ads in between the parts of the video and not instead of having it on the front and back, well, there you go. But that was a hell of a tune, man. That was a marvelous performance. And I'm really thrilled that I had the opportunity to listen through it. But it's lyrics time. We have, there is no one can understand me truly. I don't go out. I will keep silence. You don't have to know others. So are we talking about isolating ourselves? We're saying goodbye to others. We don't necessarily need to go expose ourselves and show our vulnerability there. It's called complex in how I used to thought or think, but already I know the start is the end. Everyone is crazy mania in general. You don't have time to sleep for to know others. The suffering is endless. Oh, so you can't even sleep. The suffering is endless. Okay, all right. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an ex named titled Goodbye. A part of this Doku in Kai concert that they have. I think this is the official one. It's a phenomenal performance. The track itself, my understanding of what it's about after looking through the lyrics, is essentially that it is about someone who is really struggling, maybe having mental health issues, just really not coping with the weight and strain of the world of existence within itself. We're looking at everyone else and just how kind of wild they are, and maybe it's a little bit too much to really sort of like get to know them or come to grips with their dealios. And we're saying goodbye as if we don't necessarily need to have that experience with them. We don't need that stuff in our life. We just want to have something a little bit different. I'm not necessarily sure where we go from there though, whether it's a situation where we are considering like, I don't know how dark it gets with the goodbye part. The suffering is endless though, that you can't even get away with it from it when you're sleeping. And I think that the way that we sang there with, because this is, I suppose that's my understanding the track is about, the vocal performance itself, I think we have this kind of muted, kind of sad start to it where we're kind of struggling to get the words out. We're in a moment where we're very low energy. We're just kind of coming to terms with the fact we're even beginning to think about this in the first place. And as the song goes on, the vocals become more and more intense. We become more open with it, and we kind of start to get to a point where we're not only singing and talking about it, but we're actually screaming it out near the end. And it's just this eventual slow kind of build there throughout the entirety of it with the way we sing, where the instruments do help out, the accompaniment does help out to continue to grow it. We have the singer eventually just screaming out, and the whole entire crowd is with them. And it's just this massive release there, almost like the suffering is endless. We're crying out, but we're all suffering together. So somehow I think it would have been a very cathartic experience for everyone involved there. I think that it can be really uncool or perceived as not particularly a good thing to talk about the difficulties you're struggling with, but it's something we all need to do if we're going through stuff. We need to be able to talk about it. So I think that it's incredibly brave that Toei, they put this track out, Goodbye. I think it's part of why they've got such a dedicated fan base there who really appreciate their work, because it's so authentic and raw and genuine. You can't help but admire and respect it, even if you don't necessarily like that they're talking about it. You've got to appreciate that they put themselves out there. That is reality. We are not perfect creatures. We are not robots. We have struggles, and I'm glad that we not only sung about it and shared our story with the audience, but we sang it in such a way where it was so visceral and so believable. And there were simple motifs, I think, so that other people could sing along. The melodic content, the performance itself, we didn't need a whole bunch of crazy legato and vibrato passages and stuff like that. We were just trying to tell a story to an audience and let them know. And so it was really well done. we had good vocal technique. I think most of the words came through clearly. Maybe not so much at the beginning, but I think part of that is simply because of the fact that when we are feeling really down, and I know this myself, having struggled with, depression and stuff like that in the past, you kind of stumble over your words at first when you're getting them out. It's wonderful. But it's terrible that we're having to go through this. It's not a happy story, but it's wonderful that we told it nonetheless, and I'm really thankful for that. The track is about 9 minutes, and that's a long song, but I think part of what made this work is that it was through composed. We had such a lovely range of different drum fills, guitar grooves, the keys on top in the mid to high ranges with the sparkles, the bass guitar nice and thick and full, different guitar parts as well. We had the strummed acoustic with the electric guitars as well. We had an incredible amount of different ideas being put forward within a motif that didn't necessarily change a whole bunch. The bass lines and chord progressions that we had didn't adjust a huge amount. We didn't have lots of different twists and turns and stuff like that. We had breaks and pauses where there were moments where like things kind of hung, such as after the more intense drum bits after like the first verse, where we had moments where things floated, but then we brought everything back in. I think part of the reason why we didn't have a whole bunch of crazy key signature changes, and we didn't have like a verse chorus, like a different idea or like musical theme for each, is simply because we wanted to have that one concept there of the line that we were talking about, that consistent feeling from the track there, where we were just quietly unhappy at first. And I think that it wasn't only the theme itself. I don't want to get to that too quick, because usually I do that after I talk about the instruments, but the theme itself did allow enough relative neutrality through how pretty it was when it was quiet and how violent it was when it got loud, in a good way, by the way. It was wonderfully constructed, and it allowed for a lot of flexibility to the way we performed it. To describe a few of the different instruments, what I really appreciated about them in the mix, I think the drums were just absolutely exceptional. I'm not sure if he's improvising or if that's literally what he plays every time he plays it, but he's a phenomenal percussionist. He's one of my favorite drummers in any of the bands that I've reviewed. There's just a wonderful array of different ideas and techniques, and he follows through with a lot of different grooves, like 16ths, triplets, eighths, but he also brings it down, has an incredible amount of dynamic range to it. He's not the same loudest all the time. He can go from buzz rolls and really like little tepid ones all the way down to nothing, to building it back up and fortissimo and then going back down. And he's got such an amazing control of the sticks and his kit. And he is, well, honestly, I would say equally with the vocalist. He's one of the main focal points in the mix and one of my favorite parts of it. I'm well impressed. And we never overplayed, and that was the wildest thing, because I think we got so close. And in a lot of situations, I think if the band didn't have such incredible, amazing have I already said a few of these words? Such great chemistry, I don't think we could have pulled it off in that way. I think it would have just been too many notes, too many hits. But part of what allowed us to kind of balance out this track, I think, were the guitar parts, where we had several different guitars. We had like a steel string acoustic that the singer was using, and then we had another lead. And they formed different functions. We had strummed parts there. I think with the DI tone, they had a crispness to it. There was a nice contrast to some of the really kind of wild, crazy stuff we had going on with the distortion, the different pedal modulations and stuff. But we've had a really pleasant to listen to, somber chord progression and main idea for the tune, which was communicated really eloquently by the arpeggios on the guitars, the strum parts, etc. And I think that the two guitars of different tones complement each other really well, and they both were very respectful to each other as we played. We didn't have one guitarist trying to overplay over the other. They knew their jobs. They're professional musicians, and they bossed it. I think we knew to kind of step back a little bit with some of the drum parts. We're getting a bit more kind of wild, but then we also knew to come up to them, because that was just a good way to kind of increase the loudness of it and the intensity of the composition as a whole, is to come up to where the other instrument is and again balance that out. And the bass guitarist, I mean, like they were wonderful in that low range, nice and tight with a thick full tone that was really nice, and it was present without being overpowering. But I think the bass player really pocketed, and that was exactly what this track needed. I think if you'd had all these excruciatingly kind of detailed bass lines with the wild guitar parts, with the insane drums. It just would have been too much, even with the continuity of the motif and the minimalism of the interspersed lyrics. So I'm glad that the bassist kept things nice and chill there. He provided a stable footing for the rest of the elements to lean on. In addition to the keys, because I'm pretty sure there's keys, and the keys were wonderful. I liked, again, how minimalist they are as a sub-layer. There were little sparkles that occurred there, and little sparkles made it sound like you were contemplating all the stuff in a night sky, and it actually mirrored the overall aesthetic of the venue incredibly well. If I'm honest, I think that beauty in the keys was what the song needed. You had a lot of color within the harmonies and the progressions and the different melodies and parts in the track itself and the various instruments involved, even with a lot of cymbal shimmers from the drums and such. But there was nothing kind of really pure and pristine about it. The vocals sounded really nice, but we weren't trying to be pretty with the vocal performance. We were trying to be raw and give it our 100% to just show the world exactly how we felt. And it wasn't a pretty feeling, but it was still important. It was equally, if not more important than that. And so inevitably, the theme itself, with all these ingredients combined, you get to this point where we have just this bell curve, just have a really, really flat first half, and then it just explodes. It's very slow because this track is long, but there's so much to reward the listener for every minute that you spend with it. And if I'm completely honest with you, that 9 minutes felt like 9 seconds. The theme itself, though, I think I might have already spoken about this before, but it was basically whatever the intensity of the performance was. It was neutral enough in its intervals and stuff like that to be very versatile. It went from the start where the whole crowd was singing, the crowd was like louder than the singer, and then the end part where you couldn't hear anything apart from the noise, just the static, the force. And it sounded good whatever you did with it. It sounded like it was a calm struggle. The struggle might be endless, but we've accepted it, and we're trying to find a way to go through it together. That's what my interpretation of the motif was. We weren't angry about it in the sense that we weren't angry and we hated life and everything like that. We were just trying to find a way to survive with it. And I think that makes a lot of sense with the vocal performance. And it's a weirdly positive thing, because I think that you can exhaust yourself by self-pitying and looking at how shit everything is. But if you can find solace within the people around you, it can be really beautiful and really beneficial. Lots of positive stuff to say about the song. I mean, finally, the studio recording, mixing, and mastering, this was an absolutely marvelous live take. The recording quality is sensational. The vocals, guitar, bass, drums, keys, etc. were flawless. The filtering and EQing of the various components was great. There was a roughness to it in the sense that you could tell it was live, where they didn't sterilize and purify it by exaggerating effects change and stuff, and I think that's exactly what it needed. It needed to have that kind of grit to it. It was nice and wide in the stereo feel with lovely panning of the different guitar parts, in addition to the drums being nice and wide, the bass being nice balanced there, and the vocals being of course present, and the crowd being included as well. And then you also had the frequency spectrum where things were nicely balanced there without any resonant frequencies. There was also dynamic range, so things, it went from quiet to loud, and that just gave it life. It sounded like it was alive, like you were really there. And then finally, it was still nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression limiting were handled incredibly well. And this is my review of this wonderful song from Toei titled Goodbye, from the Doku Enkai performance. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show us some love via the various social medias and YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time. It's either help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.